Hey everyone, this is Cindy. It is Friday the 13th of February, in case anybody enjoys Friday the 13th as much as I do. Uh, this is this is the hour we call sharing the word, and we are working with Resurrection, a channeled text through Paul Selick. And before I hand things over to Sandra and Amy to facilitate this gathering, I do have a clip entitled Prayer versus Wishing, about 8 minutes long. Here we go.
If you understand that everything simply is, and that everything is of God, an expression of God operating at one level of tone or perhaps another, you will understand that all things can be reknown in God, especially those things that have been seen as outside of source or conditioned by you to be seen as negative. You do understand already that the rattlesnake has a right to be, but best not to step on its tail. You understand that the man that you dated who did not turn out to be the best character you thought must be understood as having a right to be, but you are no longer required to stay in his presence. And to understand that the choices that you have made to avoid the rattlesnake, or actually to step away from the one with poor character, can be highly useful, but does not mean that you disavow the rattlesnake or the man with a poor character as outside of source. They are being themselves at the level that they have aligned to. And if they align to the higher, they may do so. And the claim, behold, I make all things new, in actuality will change your relationship to both the man and the rattlesnake, because it will restore them to their divine essence outside of the fear that you have endowed them with. Again, this does not mean that you decide to pick the rattlesnake up and say, hello, I have just blessed you. There is no need. If indeed you make a wish, I wish that this could be so, you are actually claiming potential. It can be so, must be based on the premise that it is a possibility, and a wish is a possibility. A prayer is not a wish, it actually is an act. To pray in action is to say to the source of all things, I know your presence. I understand your presence even when I do not see the outcome before me, but I claim the action of the divine upon this situation, this challenge, or this idea that I hold that is contrary to what I know to be true. I am word through this old idea, word I am word. I am word through this malady, word I am word. I am word through my misalignment, my misunderstanding, word I am word will claim the action of the divine where it has been claimed, but it will do what it seeks to do, not what you would have it do. The outcome is out of your hands. To realize that the highest is always present in source, and that you will actually be shortchanging yourself by deciding what the outcome should be. My train will arrive on time as I don't make my important appointment, might be understood later as, thank goodness the train was late. If I had been on time, we would have been in that accident I saw later reported. You must understand that the divine timing that is present in source can be understood as something that can be aligned to by you. I am in divine timing, I am in divine order, which again moves you beyond your supposition of what that should be and look like. I should have been farther along by now. I should have been married by now. I should have been promoted by now. I should have known my true purpose by now, says the personality self when she looks around her and measures her achievements, lack of love, lack of whatever she sees in a scale that she has been appropriated by in the common field. Now, as we said as we began this instruction, the common field changes through common agreement, but the common field is actually impacted by everything that operates within it. And as soon as one of you makes the wish, as soon as one of you states the prayer, as soon as one of you claims the action of the divine, behold, I make all things new, the residual affect of that claim is known in matter. How it appears is not up to you. When there is a collective mass of human beings all holding a high intention, indeed you can understand that it is the difference between one bell being rung and 1,000 bells being rung, and the residual affect in the common field of the 1,000 bells will hold the resonance of the tone beyond what the personality or singular self might achieve or imagine. But that is only true at this level still. When one aligns to the higher and moves to the universal self, the level indeed that we instruct you from, the impact that you may hold is far greater than you may hold while you still claim a body. Now, the body is a requirement for the incarnation you have chosen. Those of us who instruct through the man in the chair have known ourselves some in form, some beyond form at the inception of our being. We understand ourselves as in union with Source, but we actually cannot circumvent the free will of humanity, although we may instruct humanity in its use of will. And we may support humanity in its lifting to its own sovereignty, and we may support humanity in the great claims of truth that indeed are the birthrights of each created soul. While we have purview in our field, while we may support you in energetic ways, we cannot make you do anything, nor can we come down the chimney and say, behold, I make all things new, and give you a new set of dining room furniture. We operate well beyond the level of personal will. We understand the personal will of the human being who we use to give these instructions, and we may understand the will of those of you who ask questions, but we will not confirm your will or that you should have what you desire. I don't want my child to suffer any more. Tell me how I can help him stop the self-destructive behavior. We will tell you what you might need to know to support him, yes, but his trajectory is still an act of his will, perhaps mandated by karma or soul choice to realize himself through circumstances that you would not elect him to know. We do not make you wrong in your questions, but we do offer you this little piece of advice. Understand that you have the right to be. You have the right to err. You have the right to learn through the creations that you encounter. You have a right to change your minds about what was so important. You have the right to know God in whatever way that means anything to you. And you have the right to say yes. 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 I have come. I have come, I have come. I am in the upper room. I have come. Behold, I make all things new. It will be so.
Amy, are you taking the lead this morning?
Sure. I
Thank
do hope that at some point you will tell us how things went last night at the ceremony. So I hope you'll do that. All right. Let me take hands of people who would like to read this morning. Would you raise your hand if you want to read, Cindy? William, would you like to read? Your second, I just see you below Cindy. You don't have to.
Okay, I will today.
No, I don't want to pressure you. You should.
I don't feel your pressure at all.
Okay, William. Anybody else? I know Patricia usually. Okay, and Dago. Um, Anybody else? Patricia, you want to read? Okay. All right, we got 4 people. We'll see how that takes us.
Josephine put her hand up too.
Oh, Josephine, thank you.
What page are we on?
We are on page 108 at the bottom of the page where it says Paul to the assembled students. And Cindy's going to start us off.
Thank you.
Unless someone has a comment about the clip that we just watched. Someone wants to share anything about that. Okay. Let's begin and let's save some time at the end for Sandra, who went to the ceremony, closing ceremony for the Tibetan monks who were walking. And I would love to hear how that was for her. So we'll save some time to make sure and do that. Alka, good to see you. And we are just getting started. We are on page 108 at the bottom of the page. All right, Cindy, take it away.
Paul to the assembled students. Anything anybody wishes to share? You just want to be quiet, to be in the quiet of it? Just be in the quiet of it then. Which is fun because we usually have a conversation, but we all just chose to be quiet. This is about respecting the process that they are in. And the process that they are in is engaging itself through your body and energetic field. The system that you hold has been altered to produce a new alignment. Underline the words to produce. To claim and accept what is produced is the passage you undergo. In other words, the border has been crossed, but you have not yet acclimated to the new land. The system has been altered to support this and will continue to align to a new level of agreement. And what's coming up is something we heard, I think, with Panache. Where he said humans in general have forgotten that they've already succeeded or it's already done. And I just got chills. This understanding that in saying yes to working with these texts, it states clearly that the rising to a new level of consciousness, however you want to put it, has already been done. And we're just becoming acclimated with it now. So the chance of failure is nil. So resting in that is becoming more and more important to me. So that's my share.
Why do you think he said underline the words has been produced? And why do you think he chose the word produced?
If you're asking me, I don't have an answer.
Maybe it's extension, like creating in line with creation spirit.
It's interesting. This reminds me of the monad. Thank you, May. In that he has said repeatedly in these texts that it's the monad that is moving this change through. It's not the individual self. And just like with the A Course in Miracles text, sometimes the you gets confusing in this. Sometimes it's the small self, sometimes it's the big self, but I think he's talking about both here. So the system that you hold as the human experiencing the true self, or as the true self experiencing itself as human, has been altered and to produce a new alignment. I don't know. I just think it's interesting, the choice of words. It's like this is happening. It's not happening at a level that we on the personal self can really understand. We have to accept and be in it and of it and with it. I'm probably stating the obvious, but I just thought I'd bring that up.
I just hear it more as a resonation of claiming it and accepting. It's a merging of something is far beyond a single act. There's something timeless about it. That's what I get.
That was said much better than I did. Thank you, William.
I don't know about that.
All right, do you want to read Now is the Choice, or Now the Choice We Make? I'm going to read that. Take up the next paragraph, William.
Okay, for me then. Now, the choice we make with you is to attend to your passage as you grow comfortable in a new way of being. Less a new body than a new way of being. I love that. A new way of being. And the choice that you're offered is to maintain this new alignment, or, if you wish, revert to the old. We will say this to those of you who wish to revert. You're going to be challenged by that choice because you've had a taste of what it feels like to know the self in a new way. And while the comfort of the old and the old pain may call to you, we don't expect you will stay very long. Boy, does that resonate as well. The familiar, the secure. Do I dare stay there or go to the new? Do I jump off into the unknown? Wow, wow, wow. I love that. We sing your songs for you, not only so that you may learn the words, but so that you may sing to others. And that's what I get from Panache over and over, how he sings to everyone. And your vibrational being is what sings to others. When we return with this teaching, we will explain how this occurs. Yes, you may include this in the text as the end of this section. Period, period, stop.
Thank you.
I'm just filled with panache myself, not with him, but the spirit I get, the spirit, the newness, the oneness, just the beingness in the now. That's what I get. And I'm just filled with it. There's no, this consciousness thing here that we're all part of. And I love how many different words. And yes, love is one of our favorite words for it.
Sometimes the shift feels very clear to me.
Mm.
Feels very clear. And when fear arises in this human experience, I am more and more easily able to remind myself that A, there's no reason to fear, and B, that as the seeming movement forward continues, it's only going to get more and more enjoyable. So that's what's happening here. And this text really helps me to sit in that space. I have Indigo up next. Indigo, do you want to take it? You want to unmute?
Yay, I'm still learning how to use the cell phone.
You
Yes.
got it.
When you ask questions in love, when you make a claim in love, when you choose in love, you claim love. It is always the answer. To know the self in love is indeed to know the self in alignment. You can come in, is indeed to know the self in alignment with the truth of your being. When you have a vendetta, when you seek an action against another, you are always in a low vibration field. And the claims of justice made in such a way perpetuate a low alignment. This is true in a culture, a civilization, and yes, at the cost of the divine, that would now be seen.
Wow.
Thank you, Indigo.
That's very powerful. It makes me just stop. Just stop. We don't know what we're doing. But when we stop and get quiet, that's what we are.
I love the words claims of justice. Oh, man.
You know, I read those and I have watched a little bit of, I don't know why, I was looking at podcasts and Katie Couric had a podcast on yesterday. She was interviewing a lawyer who's looked at some of the emails that have been released from the Epstein files. And claims of justice that came up for me, and I'm curious about, the response I had was, well, things have to be transparent. There needs to be light. The light needs to be brought to things and to transparent, and there needs to be transparency. And does that fall under this claims of justice? I don't know.
Isn't it how we use the claims of justice? What's our intention behind it?
Yeah. Yeah. Is it punishment or is it transparency?
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you, William. Sandra looks like she's going to talk, but if she doesn't start talking, I'm going to.
There's something, I had a response to that question. I don't know how to articulate it. there is something in this human experience that wants justice, and yet there's a feeling that that can be transcended, and it's already transparent. It's already clear. It's just that some people block it because they don't want to know the truth. And the only response that lifts actually does this lifting that the guides tell us is love. Sometimes the need for justice is underpinned by some kind of need for revenge or something that's other than love, I guess.
Retribution.
Yes, retribution. So what I'm feeling now, I'm glad you asked the question because this is like the daily experience that I'm in with everything. But what came through very strongly was, it's always easier for me to see everyone as a little child.
Mm.
And when we see a little child misbehaving, what we call misbehaving, the only answer is love. To love them, to hug them, to hold them, even when they're in a temper tantrum. So I don't know if I answered your question.
Yeah, I thank you. I think this is good. William.
I guess I see it as a separate identity that I want justice versus it's life, it's God, God's will, thy will be done. I just step in front and say, hey, I want it my way. That's that separate self. Whether I'm the little kid that's been suppressed, this big guy I'm currently pretending to be, or do I let go and just let it be?
William, you just reminded me of something, and I don't know why, but there's a line in a course that says something to the effect that the only solution that the Holy Spirit will ever bring in a disagreement is that both sides feel they've been heard, they've been listened to, It will, and that's a total paraphrase, but I really like that. I really, really like that.
It, it, it isn't that it's all not two.
Yes, yes. The only solution a Holy Spirit will bring to any problem is one in which no one loses anything. Right. And that's in line with Sandra's saying, see everything as a little child, we make mistakes, I'm glad I asked that too. Thank you. Lots of wisdom here in these answers. Patricia's up next to read, and we're on When You Perceive Injustice. Take it away, Patricia. But you have to unmute. There you go.
We're all set. When you perceive injustice, or you perceive someone acting in fear, you must begin to see it as an opportunity to know truth in the face of the lie that is being perpetuated by the one acting in fear. The one acting in fear has lost her mind, has lost his sense of self or alignment to love and truth. And to reconcile them is to be as love in deep forgiveness for what an imagined wrong might be. Now we said imagined wrong intentionally. The imagination will conjure anything, and even your idea of injustice is born in misconception of right and wrong. Indeed, ownership itself, as you prescribe meaning to it, is an illusion. The bodies you have, while yours to care for, are not your bodies. They are of God. The air is of God, and the property you think you own is God. When this is fully understood, the walls will come tumbling. Oh, wow. The air is of God, and the property you think you own, everything is God. And misunderstandings in this body form are misunderstandings. And acceptance. I accept that there's a misunderstanding, or I'm being misunderstood, or I'm misunderstanding someone else. It just is. And it's in that acceptance where the freedom lives.
Yeah, we're able to more successfully conduct ourselves and the matterment, like, because everything has the same conductive substance within it.
Mhm.
It's awesome.
It just is.
Hmm.
Rhona
Today's-
has her hand raised.
Yes, I see that. And so I was going to just remind us that today's lesson is God is the light in which I see. And now, Rana. It's
Good
good to
morning,
have you.
everyone. I'm
Good
sitting in a
morning.
parking lot, so I finally was able to unmute. On the discussion about the word justice, there is just such a sense here that justice implies punishment. It implies like somebody needs justice and somebody needs to pay for not being, exhibiting that. And I just love this way that's being expressed about that. I've got to re-see everything, to be willing to re-see everything, to reclaim it. Because the little me does not have the big enough picture to have any sort of understanding who requires justice. There's a line in the Course. Gosh, I wish I could. I think I wrote it at the top of a page in my big book. So I'm gonna whip this out really fast. What does it say? What does it say? What does it say? Here it is. Because one of the steps in the program is making direct amends, and that principle is called justice, right? Making amends, taking responsibility. But what I wrote from ACIM is, if God is just, then there can be no problems that justice cannot solve. And so what that directs me to is, I have no perception about what is just and what is not just. It's that constant turning back and stepping back and allowing to be led in whatever next thought, move, or decision there is in this circumstance. I always think about protests. I'm not much of an activist person. I never was. But if somebody is absolutely led to go and protest, right? Where does that cross the line? Well, I've got to think, what's my motive for this? Oh, it's justice. Oh, that means that I've deemed someone wrong. Oh, and then I may still be led to go and gather. But what was just pointed to is the gentleness that occurs when I'm willing to see things differently, When I have a really strong preference or opinion about something, I know that I've crossed that line. That's the ego, and so to create that little bit of space, to see them as children, Sandra, to see them as children, innocent children, full of fear. Everybody is so full of fear right now. And what I received from the tape at the beginning, whatever, the thing at the beginning was that there maybe is only 13 people in this room right now, but our 13 instances of willingness to see things differently, to step back, to reclaim, to be open, is making a marked improvement in the consciousness of the entire planet. We have no idea. You keep telling me how powerful I am, the truth of who I am, how powerful. So there's just 13 individuated expressions of desiring to raise the consciousness of this planet. So thank you for allowing me to share. I love you all so much.
Wow, that was powerful. We need to have you in the parking lot more often, Rana. I think it frees you up. That was great. Thank you for that. Patricia, you're up next.
Thank you. The word that comes to mind is forgiveness.
Mhm.
What is acceptance and forgiveness? I forgive you for being imperfect, because I forgive myself for being imperfect, because I'm a child and I'm growing up, and I'm growing up into all that is. I'm growing into. I am that. But if I live in forgiveness, forgiving myself and forgiving others, there's a freedom in that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That's our function, right? Sandra, you're up next.
There's like this glimmer, about this little thread of an idea that's coming through that, like, reclaim the word justice and what it means. That it doesn't, sometime in the common lexicon it means punishment of some kind, but maybe justice, true justice, is forgiveness, as Pat said. But it's not saying that everything's okay. It's not saying that what you're doing is okay. It's saying, I understand. I see your hurt. I see your pain. Let me love you. And seeing through the action, seeing beyond the action that appears to be, and maybe is definitely hurtful to someone, but to the justice then becomes, for me, because am I ever really satisfied when I see someone punished? Does it somehow make the pain go away? No. That doesn't work. That doesn't even work. What heals for me is when I can go from hurt and pain to love. And when I go to love, it's not wanting to see someone else hurt in retribution. I don't know if I'm making sense here, but
Well,
it's,
you are, and I don't want to interrupt you. I'll wait till you're.
I don't mind having a dialogue about it.
Okay. Well, see, this is a really, and I don't want to take us off on a tangent, but this has been a really helpful discussion for me this morning, because I have found myself looking at, and I'll just take Epstein, because he's a great example. willful harm done to innocent people. You know, there's a gal that I heard who was 16 when she met Maxwell, and she was so groomed. I mean, this gal was had gotten admitted to Oxford. She was on her way to do, you know, really interesting things, but she wanted to be in music. And Gazelle told her that Epstein could get her into, he knew powerful people in the music industry, and that she was just the kind of person he was looking for. And she described really well how the grooming took place. She was 16. And I look at that, and it happened over and over and over and over and over again. And I can say, well, Epstein was full of fear. And so was Gazelle, full of fear. And that is the underlying, and the fear, the isolation, the sense of separation from source. How that could be not a motivation, but that could allow one to move from needing to do that, needing the power of money, and then feeling that you could be free. And that's a form of freedom, in a way, to abuse another person and think you're not going to get caught, you know. And so it's very complicated, but I can't find that I love Jeffrey Epstein. I do not love him. I might love the spirit that I know he is, but the human self that is manifesting as Jeffrey Epstein, I cannot love that.
I don't think that the choice is loving what the mind is creating. Where's the point of view I'm looking from? Is it from consciousness? Thy will, whatever the hell that may mean or not mean to me? Or am I looking at it through my own ideas, my point of view of my mind?
Yep.
What makes sense to me? And so love is, I use that word very loosely now. It's a space of consciousness. It's not an emotional attachment to that part of me that likes a human body, so forth, so forth. So anyway, that's all I got to say.
That makes much more sense to me. I think love is a word that is it's really tricky. Yeah, thank you.
So for me, where does the healing come in this being that I manifested as right now? And it never seems to come from watching someone be, quote, punished. It seems to come from someplace else when I let go and let God, when I stop trying to figure it out, but know that there is a power greater than me, much greater than this individuated, manifested self. And I trust in it and know, in the Bible it says, vengeance is mine, says the Lord. I don't know. It's like, it's not up to me. I just find peace in the kind of universal forgiveness that I think William's talking about. It's not the individual. It's more the greater than, the power greater than us. And that's where I find peace, not in somehow some kind of retribution to someone else. And I'm then grateful that I can rest in that I can just marinate in that love myself and be comforted there and be made whole there and not feel lack anymore, like something's been done to me or someone. And there I rest and just marinate in that. And that feels like the ultimate justice, if we're using that word. So it is looking at reclaiming and seeing things differently. Thank you for letting me say all that. I didn't know that was coming.
That was poetic. That was very poetic. I love that. Yeah. And Dago, and then Josephine, and then Cindy.
Thank you. I don't know how to do this phone. I just so much love these teachings of just stepping back. Just step back. And surrender. Because at least for me, my mind and my body wants to do whatever it wants to do. It doesn't know the spirit and the love that I am. And so I love so much these teachings of just stop, just stop. Just take a minute and stop. Get quiet and ask God what to do. Because at least for me, all my emotions and everything, they want me to do whatever Indigo wants to do. And I'm not Indigo. So yeah, it's great. It's really great to just have these teachings and all these experiences. We're so blessed. Thank you.
Thank you, Indigo. Josephine, and then Cindy. Good morning, Josephine.
I am so glad that we're looking at the word justice and wherever that takes us, because we're living in a world right now where our ego selves must deal with circumstances as they are. And when there are actions that are so horrendous, and we're still part of this society in our ego selves, then there has to be some order. And order would require some action taken in terms of justice for not only justice, but the rule of law. And we are living in that world, and we can't deny that. But then when we look at our spirit selves, then you have to look at every negative action, no matter how horrendous, as a call for love. And of course, the only answer to that is to give love. And then again, and I have often questioned, what is love? How does one manifest it? What is the definition of love? Some have said, when I've asked the question, love is really acceptance. That's a synonym for love. Okay, if that's what it is, then how do we behave in light of awful, horrendous actions? Talking about Epstein as one of the worst. How do we behave then? Well, again, I see the duality of behavior. In the world of ego, you have to stand by the laws that we have created in order to live socially with one another. But then we go to our spirit world and our spirit selves, and we say, no, I don't even think forgiveness, because if we say forgiveness, it's accepting the fact that a wrong was committed and you must forgive it. Radical forgiveness is accepting that there is no wrong. It is all a call for love, and our reaction would be to offer that love. And then you get into, but how? And then the split of, well, the how would be the ego world how, or the spirit love how. Um, and then I come back to having to live in the world of duality. And we have to. So that's how I view, and I am, I guess, more comfortable with the discussion of justice and love.
Wow. I love this. Thank you so much. Thank you. This is really it's rich. Yeah. Cindy, I can't wait to hear what you have to say.
I also cannot wait to hear what I have to say. I am not certain. It is,
Well, you've had all this time to prepare.
I did not prepare. I sat in stillness and I watched and I said, I'm gonna do a Sandra and allow myself to raise my hand. I am being gifted in my life right now with a lot of space to practice the teachings. And I am learning that when my focus is not, well, here's a quote from Joel Goldsmith that has been rocking my world. You ready, Richard? I can't even tell you how often I think of you during, like, oh my God, I can't wait to share this with Richard. So your voice, everybody's voice is with me a lot, right? But here's the one that had me thinking of Richard this morning. Do not expect the power of God to function in the quote unquote dream, but rather to break the dream. Is that not cool? It's creating a disturbance. So I'm listening to this conversation and I'm loving it. And every time I hear the word justice, what lights up for me is the word judgment, right? And it brought me back to this quote from Panache. He's really he's starting to penetrate my cells, and I've been writing it around. And he wrote, it's a polarity shift. We are no longer living from the outside in, we are living from the inside out. And over and over and over again, for me right now, the story of Cindy and her parents and her sisters is so loud and it's so rich with opportunities to judge that it's giving me so much practice, right? And even just the conversation with my sister for a half hour this morning, where she was essentially like, fuck that. If they're going to continue to act like children, let dad fall. Like, I'm done, you know? Um, and I'm watching my response and I'm looking, I'm like, man, I have about 1,000 different opportunities to judge and pick a side, right? There was like 1,000 different opportunities. Just, it was rich with the ability to have an opinion and a judgment. And none of it was really like, I am not living somebody else's world. I'm only living my world. And if Panache is correct, and if the Course is correct, and if Eckhart Tolle is correct, all these beautiful, Joel is correct, then this world is a projection of the mind that's here. And then I was also really excited because William, I don't know if anybody caught it, but when William was reading, the words were period, period, period. That was the end of the paragraph. What William said was period, period, stop. And then about within 2 minutes, Nadego said, this just makes me stop. And I wrote it all down and I'm sitting with it and I'm going, okay, what's here for me? And you know what came? Again, Course in Miracles. Ken Wapnick, well, it's Dove Fishman saying Ken Wapnick states that you could choose to leave the sandbox anytime you want. You could walk out of the movie theater. You don't have to play the game anymore. And so I've been touched by the Epstein, but when I heard someone say this is an atrocious story, for me, what's more alive is what's going on with all these crazy decisions my parents are making and the interaction with medications and my sisters. Like, it's rich with the opportunity to notice how often the energy here is being focused on judgment, which is, and can I accept judgment is the opposite of love? That's a workbook lesson, right? From one comes all the, judgment is the opposite of love. From one comes all the sorrows of the world. From the other comes the peace of God itself. And Fanash said, this is inside out. So the moment I choose love over judgment based on this teaching, the dualistic world's going to change. And so, and even as I say that, I got to tell you, like, my head's starting to burn and the body starts to shake. The sense of a separate self is fighting this idea that I have that much power. But all of the teachings say that I do. And so I, like Sandra, I heard Sandra say, I didn't know I was going to say all that. I'm really grateful for the opportunity to say all that because there's a lot of like physical, energetic movement in here and saying it. But anyway, that's my contribution to this conversation. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Josephine, you are up next and you're also up to read next. So
Okay.
why don't you?
Getting out of the sandbox, if we don't have to stay in it, that visually that resounds with me. But I also remember a story that one of the teachers told. I don't know who, it may have been Wapnick. If you are witnessing a child being abused, you must take action to protect the child. But if you do it without feeling hate or judgment or anything negative towards the perpetrator, then that is acting within spirit and yet within the demands of the world, the ego world that we're in. So that's why I leap to the idea of having to function in this ego world. But again, depending on how we do it, if it comes from acceptance, which I define as love, then you are acting within spirit and yet behaving in a world that allows you to function in the ego plane.
Oh boy. Okay. That is actually a perfect prelude to the next paragraph. It's perfect. So, Josephine, take it away. We're on now. You care for your body.
Yes. Now you care for your body, and you care for the body of the one beside you as if it is your own. Make no mistake here. As long as there is one child hungry, one woman starving, one man in need of medical aid, there's work to do. The work of your hands is always present here. If you have something to do, please do it. But if you trust God to be your director from this amplified state that you have been taken to, there will be no question of inaction, and the lines between one another will begin to blur. Now you don't hold your brother's debt for her or him. You don't take on someone's issue as if it is your own. You reclaim the issue and the one before you in the high accord you have been taught. Yes, that I feel is so consistent with what I am thinking and saying.
Absolutely.
Do you want me to continue?
Yeah, why don't you finish that paragraph and then we will,
I have
and
a
then-
question.
okay.
What does it mean? You reclaim the issue and the one before you in the higher court you have been taught. What does that mean?
Mm.
I mean, how do you reclaim it?
Behold, I see all things new, made new. I think you reclaim it by doing what you can in
Okay.
whatever situation arises. But as I think it was Josephine or Sandra said, you see the other not as separate, right?
Yeah, that bit I understand.
So the lines between one another will begin to blur, and you reclaim the issue, and you're in the high accord you've been taught. So you change the vibrational quality of the environment in which you are taking action through eroding the sense of duality in which the situation seems to be presenting itself. I'm not speaking very clearly here.
No, that's fine.
That is clear.
Okay.
Is that how you saw it too, or do you see it differently?
Are you asking Josephine?
No, I'm asking you, Alka. Sorry.
It doesn't make any sense to me.
Okay.
Sorry. I understand the bit where he says, well, if one child is hungry or whatever, if our work is not done, I understand that. And I understand that you can't hold personal debts for other people. I get that. But then what does he mean? You can reclaim it.
I think it's just the knowledge of the presence of the divine in that thing, even though it's like because we live in this like saturated culture where it's been like perpetuated the idea of separateness into ways, like it's funneled into ways where like we have this untreated strangeness that results in perversion or dysfunction, violence, whatever, just like the inherency of the brotherhood, the fellowship of humankind has been lost in the like. Do you guys know about the book The Chalice and the Blade by Rain Eisler?
Yep.
Where
Oh,
he
yeah.
kind of I think it's been helpful for me to use those words consistently, like dominator and partnership society, like basically what this teaching is we're just, and people are getting it from like many different directions. This is just one way, but I think the more that we do this, we're able to re-see God in that
Yeah.
perversion. Yeah.
That makes sense to me. Thank you, May. That really does make sense. See everything of God.
Right. That takes it out of the sandbox, doesn't it?
Yeah, and that's exactly what we were outlined to do. Yeah. To break the dream.
Yep.
To break the dream by knowing it as itself. Yeah, because it's and with it's very purely feeling. If everything is thought, if everything is love as thought, it's just you is completely curated by feeling.
Thank you.
Thank you. William, and then I saw Cindy had her hand up.
I think what I'm seeing is that it's the difference between the little I and the big I. When I'm looking from consciousness, when I'm looking from thy will, or trying to at least, being there, coming from the silence, the stop, versus the little I that's doing its best to harmonize with life, with the other. That separate self that I tend to see myself as, that little I, so different than when I surrender and just, and what really speaks to me is when I read Francis Lucio talking about the perspective that I come from. From one perspective, it's like even with this word stop, the gaps, we talk a lot about the gap, but it's a different kind of gap when I'm coming from consciousness than when I'm coming from the little I. The little I sees the gaps as the interruption of my thoughts. Coming from the now, the oneness, the divine, the gaps, they're different. And I'm not yet able to articulate completely the difference, but there is a difference in those gaps of silence, of truth, when I'm coming from thy will versus when I'm coming from the little I that's caught up in all kinds of false beliefs. And this also makes me appreciate good little old Sydney Banks. He did make it so simple. And that simplicity is so powerful.
Thank you. It's 11:09, and I'm going to suggest we stop here at the top of page 111. So on February 20th, we'll start right at the top of the page with the issuance of this teaching. That's going to continue this conversation in a way, and something tells me that no matter what happens between now and next week, of course, we know time is an illusion, that wherever we pick up will be absolutely perfect. So I'm going to, Cindy, did you have something that you wanted to say? And then I'd like to just invite Sandra to tell us a little bit about last night's ceremony before we end.
All right. I'll just take a minute to give what I consider to be a personal example of what we were talking about. It felt like it might be useful. And it was just being in presence while the Medicare nurse was attempting to explain the list of medications and how they are to be given to my father last week. And my mother was very defensive and very argumentative, right? That's just the picture. And the small self, the judgment small self might have just told my mother to shut up. I don't know what she would have done, right? But instead I got real quiet and I got real present. And I remembered the teachings that it's all God. And I listened to the nurse and I held the defensiveness that was coming from my mother. I did it for however long. And I was very aware of absorbing the information that the nurse was communicating. And I was very aware of where the small self wanted to judge the circumstance. And every time I saw the judgment, I actively brought it to the upper room. I knew that the judgment, that wanting to attack my mother and how she was behaving was not going to be useful. And then soon after the nurse left, my mother allowed me to clarify the information, and we redid my father's pillbox. Now, what happened after I left is outside of, my purview. But that entire experience was one that I was able to stay present enough to watch this work in action, if that makes sense. So that's what came to me
Thank you.
to share, if that
Cindy.
makes sense. It's how I'm bringing the teachings into daily life when I notice. Now, I don't always notice, but that was a circumstance that I was able to really put the teachings to the test.
Thank you.
All right. Sandra, I'd like to invite you, if you want to share.
I think I'd like to respond to Alka's question.
Okay.
Reclaim the issue and the one before you in the high accord you have been taught. What's happening with me is the teachings of the course. I could see things differently. I could see love, I could, and reclaiming the issue. Like, we were on this walk with these monks, and it was beautiful, amazing, really, truly amazing. And then I saw a political sign, they're not political at all. They don't take sides in any politics, but there was this big political sign and I saw ICE on it, ICE. And I said to my youngest daughter, Laura, oh no, somebody brought politics into this. And then she says, no, read the sign. And so I read, it got closer and it said something like, let's love and melt ice. And I thought, yes, let's melt ice. It's not it. So that's like what I think reclaiming the issue is. It's bringing it to the high accord, allowing the truth of these teachings to become such a part of our molecular structure and our thinking and our heart that we just start to see things differently, to see peace, to claim the truth of the love that we know is ever present and ever available if only we remember and open our hearts to it. And then we can actually see the ice melting and see what's underneath the ice that's been frozen in place, that feels like it's so rigid and it can't move, that it can just melt away. And it can melt away without there being any kind of retribution, justice, punishment, whatever. How does it melt away? It melts away with warmth. And so, yes, on Wednesday, we found out that these monks were going to do another day in Annapolis, which is about 2 hours from us. And I said to my daughter, I really wish we could go. I wish I could go. But I didn't think any more about it. A half hour later, she called me and says, pack your bag. We're going. I'm driving you. We drove to Annapolis. And it was just so beautiful. I have so much emotion around walking with these people. This young man speaking these words of peace and unity and just, and love and no politics, no, just don't try to change the world, change your heart. Don't try to change anything. Just give loving kindness to all beings and have goodwill towards all. And to me, that's what the upper room is. That's what we're talking about. That's what forgiveness is. To be in that energy was electrifying. It's one thing to watch it on Instagram. It's another thing to be in that energy, in that crowd with those people, all kinds of people, all different races, all ages. just feeling that energy and the gentleness of it. It was so gentle, quiet speaking, not loud, aggressive voices, quiet, gentle kindness, emanating from a presence that was beyond any one individual in that crowd, the presence. And his message, this 21-year-old monk, his message was, change your heart. And then you will see differently. So I'm very grateful that I got to experience that, and that I was drawn to go there and be a part of that. And I'm very grateful to be here with you, each of you, and all of you, all the times that I get to be with you, because your presence permeates my being.
Thank you for that. Thank you for the share. Before we go, I have another call I have to be on at 11:30, so I'm going to get off soon. But we were talking, Cindy and I were talking about.
I'm just going to stop the recording.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I love
Okay.
you guys.
Thank you. Love you too.